Good morning and welcome to the Monday Call brought to you by NZ Funds. I'm Stefan Clark, Chief Client Officer at the firm, and this morning we have a very special guest. Tim Draper from Draper Associates is calling in from Hawaii. Welcome, Tim. Tim has a phenomenal background, being the first outside investor into SpaceX, an early investor into Tesla, Skype, Hotmail, Baidu, Coinbase, and in 2014, he stunned the world by buying a large holding in Bitcoin, which at the time was seized from, I believe, Silk Road and sold via government auction. Tim, welcome to the Monday Call. It's a real delight to have you here. I thought we could start with, I guess, a little bit about, if you wind back a little bit through time, how you decided to get into investing generally, what your journey was to discovering the venture capital world, and then how you ended up building your own significant business through time.
So it was an easy route for me. My grandfather was the first Silicon Valley venture capitalist. My father was a venture capitalist. So I guess, as my son says, who's also a venture capitalist, he says, well, if my grandfather, my great grandfather, and my father had all been farmers, we'd be farmers. I'd be a farmer. Um, so I really didn't have it in my mind that I'd be a venture capitalist until I realized that I didn't have the follow through I would require to be an entrepreneur. I had a lot of interesting ideas for entrepreneurship, but coming out of business school, I wasn't willing to commit to any one of them, and so venture capital actually, I I realized that my grandfather had paved a path that was actually good for my personality. Um, and then my my dad set up an SBIC, a small business investment company with the government. And then he went off to the government to work as chairman of the Export-Import Bank of the United States. And uh, and the SBIC was just sitting there, and it had some private companies in it. And I was able to go back to the SBA and borrow $6 million against those private companies. They allowed 3-to-1 leverage at that time. And I put that to work. And after about 3 years or 4 years, they were going to call my loan. And I had to fly back and convince them that there's some good things in there. But there had been a lot of companies that had gone out of business. That was 1985, 6, 7. Was not a great year, a great time. But fortunately, they hung in there, and we had a big IPO window opened up in 1991, and I was able to. Suddenly, I had 5 IPOs in the. I went from being on the dirt list of the SBA to being venture capitalist of the year, and they framed my picture, put it up on their wall. I was a hero, and zero to hero, and I was able to pay everybody back. I was able to give everybody plenty of money on a return basis, because my dad owned that SBIC for my sisters and me. And so I was able to give everybody a great return. And then I had a venture capital record, which is quite valuable. And I brought in a partner, John Fisher, and I had worked with him for a while before. And the two of us went and raised a small fund based on my record. And we put that to work, and we did very well with that. And then we brought on another partner, Steve Jurvetson, and we hit the internet just right. And had, I think, 2 of the best funds that anybody's ever had during that internet period. One of our funds, we made 21 investments, and 18 of them went public 21 seed investments, 18 of them went public.
It feels like the inverse of the power law. Normally it's meant to be one or two go to the moon and then.
Yeah, no, it was, but then they all came crashing down. And I went, before it all crashed down, I had set up a network of venture capitalists, and then I set up an international one, and that turned out to be a really good thing. We funded Baidu and Skype. Baidu was the Google for China, and Skype was, I think everybody has used Skype. And those two made that one of the best performing funds. And so we were kind of on top of the world, but then the internet bubble burst, and we really got crushed, but not the international fund, not the one I was working on. And then we struggled along for a while, and just kept moving along. And during that period, I had added more and more partners, and the partners started to end up with equal shares and equal votes. And I was finding I couldn't get a deal done. And so I spun out and restarted at 52 years old. And that was turned out to be a great thing for me, because I did some things that my partners wouldn't have allowed me to do. One was set up a school for entrepreneurs called Draper University, and one was to buy all that Bitcoin that the government was selling, the U.S. Marshal's Office was selling, and I offered that up to my old partners. I said, "Hey, you guys, I still want to help." But that, and then I funded Robinhood at a $12 million valuation. It went up to $100 billion. I mean, it just ended up working out really, really well for me. And then the school became fantastic. It's now, I mean, if you compare it to schools, it's sort of a human accelerator. If you compare it to schools, it's harder to get into than Harvard or Stanford. Students have come from 104 different countries. They've started 600 different companies, and about 25 of them are worth more than $100 million, and 5 or 6 are unicorns. And that's pretty good because it's only about 15 years old. And then I did a show called Meet the Drapers, where I interview entrepreneurs. It's something I'd always wanted to do. I did it with crowdfunding to start with, but the SEC thought that was, they were not prepared for that, actually. And the new SEC, of course, would be much more interested in having me do it. But the show has taken off. It reaches about 300 million people, and I interview entrepreneurs, and I have these great guest judges. And because it's called Meet the Drapers, we adopt all the guest judges as drapers. So great. Well, anyway, sorry, you probably have a few questions now.
Oh, well, my first question is, has Kim Kardashian been on your show?
Yeah. No, it's called Meet the Drapers, a slightly different show. But we have had Miss Sri Lanka. We've had Supermodel from Germany. We've had Joe Montana, who was 4-time Super Bowl champion quarterback. We've had Rosie Rios, who was the treasurer of the treasurer of the United States. We've had Rosie's been on a show several times. We've had Sri Ravi Shankar, the biggest guru in India, as a guest judge on the show. And we've had amazing entrepreneurs. We already have one that's a unicorn called Boxable. They basically build houses on an assembly line that can go on a truck. Um, so it's been, yeah, this has been a great adventure, uh, and being able to have the freedom to operate without a lot of partners has been very helpful to me. I have partners, but they're, um, I, I make all the decisions.
How do you go about selecting an investment? Because the theme through all of this is you've made the right call. And when I go on your website and I look around at all the businesses you're supporting, and there's a lot now, but thematically you're stacking the odds very much more in your favor than perhaps many. What is it that enables that?
I think it might be an instinct based on having been grown up in the business, but um, there, it's like big successes in entrepreneurship come in waves, and if you get too tied to one wave, then you might miss the next one. Um, and and then the other thing that happens is the waves usually happen where some industry or another becomes dominated by just a few players, and they are providing bad service at a high cost. And so, you can think of all the ones that are providing bad service at a high cost: big pharma, bad service, high cost, banking, insurance, government. They all operate as oligopolies or monopolies, and they charge a lot for very little. And I think that when a new technology comes along, it has an opportunity to challenge those industries. So with the internet, it challenged what a library is, and it challenged what a hotel is, and it challenged what a taxi is, and it challenged what commerce was, and when Bitcoin came along, it challenged what a bank was, and how finance would work, and how um, and how liquidity can be improved, and that kind of thing. And then when AI showed up, um, it's challenged. It's challenged memory. It's challenged education. It's challenged education. Um, it's challenged a lot of support roles, and I think that it's going to be really great for society. Um, it's gonna there are going to be some growing pains, but there were growing pains when we came up with the automobile, and people were saying, well, I'm a saddle maker or a buggy whip manufacturer, and then they just figured it out. They adapted to the new environment. um, when the internet came, I remember people saying that, oh, it's going to take all our jobs, and people won't learn math, and uh, you won't need an accountant, and boy, nothing could be farther from the truth. Um, I think we're going into a time where not only are we going to have hyper intelligence, where we get to use the power of AI as we go through things, but I think as AI and robots combine, I think robots are going to get smarter and smarter, and they're going to be able to do things without us asking. And I guess that's all those science fiction novels make people worry about that sort of thing. But I do think that our lives will be much better, and I think the robots, um, the idea of a robot being paid in dollars makes no sense. It'll probably be paid in Bitcoin because it's much more fluid. It moves faster. It doesn't have to go through government's hands and banks' hands, and it doesn't have the friction that the existing system has. So I think robots will have to pay each other for their services, and that's going to be a whole new thing. I think space and transportation are changing. Elon Musk has really opened the door to incredible creativity in space and in transportation. Before Elon, we all thought space was just for governments to operate in, and they really weren't doing anything with it. And we thought transportation was just the big three and maybe Toyota. And all of a sudden Tesla came along, and now there are so many new things going on, jetpacks and eVTOLs and vehicles that can be boats and fly, and vehicles that can be on land and boats and fly, and it's amazing. And Elon comes up with this idea like, hey, we're going to Mars. And it was a little like Kennedy saying we're going to the moon. On the way to Mars, amazing things are going to happen. So already we got Starlink, which is really better than my fiber. And we've got, he's also incorporating free speech in there with Twitter, and AI is going to be a part of it, and he's going to put servers up in space. I mean, this guy's extraordinary, but as he does it, think of the learning that's going to happen as people try these new things. And then the other thing that we're very excited about are the big pharma is finally being challenged. They've had kind of a cushy relationship with the FDA. It's like, oh, you want a drug through, it costs you 15 years and $2 billion. Well, now, there's a country called inside of Honduras called Prospera, and you can get almost any medical tourism to happen in Prospera, and the technologies that are challenging the old chemotherapies are biocures. So we're going from big pharma dominating chemotherapies, where you take one thing and then it creates another problem. You take another thing, creates another problem, take another thing, which is great for pharma, but not great for the patient. And we're creating biocures, and those are using CRISPR and bioengineering and cloning. I mean, we're seeing everything from people reproducing the brain to taking stem cells out of the body and putting them back in younger, to a bag of body parts without a brain. There's some extraordinary things happening in the world. Actually, another one, colossal, is de-extincting the woolly mammoth. But on the way to de-extincting the woolly mammoth, they're coming up with all sorts of things, different, stem cell work and cloning work, and all sorts of things are happening because the guy came up with sort of a big long-term vision. So that, I mean, you asked what I like. That's what I like. I like big long-term vision.
There's a real sense of sort of optimism for the future. In everything you say, I can feel that running through. It's hard to imagine woolly mammoths being a strong contender as a consumer good.
The idea is to put them in zoos and have people, and so people would pay more money. They go to the zoo and then they pay a little extra to go see the woolly mammoth.
Mammoth premium. Last week we had on the call an individual, Chris Quilty from Quilty Space. He's a space analyst, and he was talking about the convergence of these things and how manufacturing in space of drugs was going to be a massive industry in the future in a gravity-free environment. And so hearing about, your push and excitement about pharma, and then at the same time, space and everything that Elon is able to do and opening that up for society. It's a fascinating area.
Yeah, they are putting those two things together. We've backed a couple of companies that are doing manufacturing in space, and they are very promising. Um, I'm down to one kidney, and so I am always looking for where people are trying to build something. They tried to grow a kidney in space, and it was great without gravity. But then when it came back down to Earth, the gravity sucked it down and smashed it. So there's some things they're gonna have to overcome. But that's what's great about a startup is they say, oh, it smashes down, and if it smashes down, then what do we do to maintain the structure when it leaves space and goes back into gravity? And so those kinds of things are, a problem creates an opportunity and then a solution, and then there's another problem and an opportunity and solution. And it goes on and on.
Changing tack for a moment, you must engage with a lot of entrepreneurs. Do you think that what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur has changed with time, or is it always broadly the same skill set and mindset and open-mindedness?
The greatest entrepreneurs that I've met, they all have a big vision, but then they take it one step at a time. So it starts with a little acorn and then it grows into a giant oak tree. And I think they change over time? I think everybody's changing all the time. So I guess the answer is yes. But on the other hand, what I'm looking for is pretty much continues to be somebody who's passionate about an area. They've been studying it for a long time. They see an opportunity, and then they see like what the world could look like if they're successful. And then some of them don't make it, but some of them, the successful ones, are usually more successful than they ever imagined they'd be. I mean, when Elon was starting out in the rocket company, the first two blew up on the pad, but on the launch pad. But the first two after we had made our investment, so we were kind of, wow, wait, what happened? But but then I think the vision keeps moving. It keeps changing and adapting and improving. And as it goes, a good entrepreneur is both sticks to their North Star, but they're also flexible enough to figure out how to make it all happen. He's as good as they go. But the other great entrepreneurs were also, they started small, but they kind of had bigger visions. So Robin Lee at Baidu and Nicholas Zenstrom at Skype, they were starting by just sort of giving something away for free, and then they figured out how to make money, and then it grew. Yeah, there's no perfect formula.
In all cases, they're delivering something of value to the broader community. And then sometimes they figure out how to charge for it up front, and other times, the money piece is just another problem to solve.
Yeah. The one thing they all have in common is just a love for the customer. They're really good. They think about the customer a lot.
Do you think entrepreneurialism can be taught, or is it something you unlock in someone?
All of my dad's friends in venture capital, they all said, oh, entrepreneurship is innate. It can't be taught. It's just some people are just entrepreneurs. And whenever I hear that something can't be done, I kind of go, how would I do that? And that was the birth of Draper University. I thought, okay, how can I take an ordinary person and turn them into an entrepreneur? And we have done that many, many times now. So it can be taught. Now, it can't be taught with the existing educational systems around the world. They're not going to fly. I mean, they they want to get everybody to memorize things and be very good in class and follow instruction and whatever. Entrepreneurs are not following instruction. They are out there saying they're living their lives. They're looking at nature. They're trying different things. They're testing, prodding. Um, and that's the kind of school that is required to create an entrepreneur from an ordinary person.
Yeah, it's very different from the structures of the modern age. I was just, as you were saying that, I was thinking about my children and all the the instruction they must follow, whether it's from us as parents or whether it's from the school. And then it's quite a leap from that to taking, whatever journey you need to go on to free yourself of the shackles and build a thing.
It tends to be more natural for second and third children. First children tend to be apt pupils, but second and third children are looking for kind of ways to become different from their siblings.
When you think about AI and the next wave, I love the word wave, but when you think about the next wave of AI, do you think we're going to continue down this automation piece and, agents more and more, or is there going to be a tangent that the world goes off on that you see coming?
Boy, I think New Zealand is really going to be able to take advantage of AI. Being remote and away from everything else, we're still talking about, and we're getting pretty close, the single entrepreneur unicorn. Basically, they start a business, they build it around AI. All their employees are AI employees. All their manufacturing is done by AI robots. Um, I think I think your world there has a big opportunity. And I've been to New Zealand, and wow, what a beautiful place. Uh, and AI is probably very good for the environment. The world can progress without being polluted, and it can make better judgment calls because the humans who are making the decisions based on AI recommendations are going to make better decisions. Um, this is going to be it's going to be a fabulous time. My son, one of them said, AI is going to take all our jobs. And I started thinking about that, and I realized, I better use AI in all my venture capital work. So I've got 5 digital twins and a whole bunch of things going on in our business. But I would put a corollary to that, and that would be AI is going to take all our jobs if we don't use AI to improve our jobs. So I would, I'd encourage everybody to, you know, spend all your free waking hours uh, playing around, trying different things. It's amazing what I've been able to do with AI. Oh my God. I mean, you're about to make a big investment, and I go into AI and they've got the best diligence team I've ever experienced. Um, AI evaluates the entrepreneurs that we interview because we record their voices and their faces, and AI picks things up that maybe we may miss. Um, so yeah, use AI. It's great. And and then and then I'm hoping that governments start to recognize that by using Bitcoin, they can actually automatically, there's a little bit of a jump, but not completely. They can automatically tax people, and you can automatically audit people, and you can automatically have perfect accounting for your business, and you can automatically pay people. Everything can be on a smart contract. You can't do that with dollars. And so I think that the world's going to get there. It's just a matter of time. And stable coins are kind of a bridge to Bitcoin. So we're getting there. But the more AI you use, the more value AI creates. Those need to be very micro payment-y. You can't make micro payments in dollars. So you need Bitcoin. You need it all automated. Everything needs to be automated. And it needs to be decentralized, but we can get into that another time.
When was the light bulb moment for you that AI is going to change everything? And was it similar to the light bulb moment for you when you realized that the internet was going to change everything?
Okay, those are two big moments. Boy, the internet, I knew that was going to change everything when when I realized I could search two things. I could search DARPA for new technologies, and I could buy diamonds on the internet. That was like, what? Those were the two first real applications that you could actually dig in, and you could figure out what the U.S. government was doing in their defenses. That was part one. And then the other part was that I could buy diamonds. And I thought, whoa, so I can buy anything. That was a long time ago, 82, 83, something like that. When I knew Bitcoin was going to be a big deal was when the Mount Gox guys stole all that Bitcoin, and they were the biggest exchange for it. And Bitcoin didn't disappear. It just dropped 15%. And I realized people really need this. And then you find out that the 2 billion people that are not banked can be a part of the world economy with Bitcoin. So that was when that happened. And then when AI hit me, it was just when I used ChatGPT 3. And all of a sudden, it was all this information I never thought I'd ever be able to get. That was so far beyond Google, and it was thoughtful. And I did a search. I thought, well, what the heck? First, I tried Google, and then I tried AI. And AI did such a clear explanation of it. Somebody said something about string theory, and I thought, God, what is string theory? And I typed it into Google, and I got a bunch of garbage. And then I typed it into ChatGPT 3, and I went, oh, it was one paragraph. I thought, that's how it works. It was that simple. And I realized that that's going to change all of education. It's going to change how we think about things, how we answer all these quandaries that we have. I mean, every day I come up with questions in my world, and I just go, God, I wonder if, then I go, oh, and I get the answer. It's a good answer. It's not always right. And if you work with AI a lot, you find out that it often screws up. But they're easy things to fix. Yeah. So I remember there was a guy in Boston. I went to high school in Boston, or in Massachusetts, and there was a guy on the air, and he said, "It's a wise man that rules the stars, but a fool that is ruled by them." And I think of AI that way. It's like There it is a wise man who uses AI actively, but a fool who is ruled by it.
Absolutely. I get asked often from people who haven't used AI much, but it's wrong. They say, how can you be sure the answer is good?
Well, the answer to that is you can't be sure. So I think that's somehow our education system always comes up with the how can you be sure? And that doesn't, humanity isn't sure. Every time you go outside, you're not sure. You you're going to go experience something. A an adventure. And I think that's the way you've got to look at it. And that's the way I've always looked at venture capital. A lot of people have asked me, how can you be sure that a company that you invest in is going to do well? And I go, what? What do you mean? Makes no sense. The answer doesn't even make sense. So I look and I say, no, I am not sure. There's no certainty. And I'm not sure when I ask AI that answer is going to be true. And I'm not sure if I ask the best professor in the world if their answer is true. And in fact, I've got a good friend Cree Edwards, who came up with a whole new theory on the way physics operates. And he might be right. And all these guys who get, the Nobel Prize for dark matter, dark energy, Big Bang, black hole, they may be all wrong. And it's like, what? They could all be wrong. And particle physics could just be a waste of everybody's time. And so, yeah, you can't be sure of anything.
It's not the test. It's not the right test. It's like when you step into, when I was in San Francisco last year for the first time, and I hopped in a Waymo, one of those automated cars, and
Aren't they the best?
well, absolutely. And then I told people, and I was like, "Weren't you worried about hitting a car or an accident?" And the answer was very quickly, I was less worried in that than I would be driving with most people. So, and it's the same when you ask ChatGPT. Your professor analogy is absolutely right. If you ask a human, the answer, on average, you're going to get a better answer from the robot than you are from a person.
It's going to be more. I mean, the great thing about AI is it's the aggregation of all humanity. Everything everybody's put out there on the web, and some things they haven't even put out on the web, but have been recorded, and so they're on the web. This is a really fun, interesting time. I'm so excited about the whole thing.
Thank you so much for your time, Tim. It's been a delight having you on the show.
Yeah, fun for me too. Send me a link and I'll spread it around.
Perfect. Will do. Have a great day. Thanks, Tim.
All right. All the best.
New Zealand Funds Management Limited is the issuer of the NZ Funds Active Income Series, NZ Funds Active Inflation Series and NZ Funds Active Growth Series, together the NZ Funds Active Series, as well as the NZ Funds KiwiSaver Scheme, the NZ Funds Managed Superannuation Service, NZ Funds Wealth Builder and NZ Funds Income Generator. For further information or to request a copy of the product disclosure statement for each of these, please contact NZ Funds or visit nzfunds.co.nz. This recording is provided for information purposes only. The information provided is not intended as a substitute for specific professional advice on investments, financial planning, or any other matter. Past performance is not an indication of future returns.